The camera finds her before she's ready. That's the thing about red carpets, they don't wait for you to catch your breath. The flashbulbs are already firing when the SUV door swings open and the noise hits Joyce Adami like a wall. 1,000 voices saying her name at once, none of them knowing her at all. She steps out. Black gown. Structured corset. Hair pinned back with two loose strands framing her face like someone planned it, which she did at 6 in the morning, standing in her bathroom trying not to cry. She looks perfect. She feels like she's drowning. The photographers are shouting, "Joyce, over here. Joyce, who are you wearing? Joyce, where's Daniel?" And that last one, that last question slides between her ribs like something cold and thin. She doesn't answer. She turns, faces the cameras. Smiles the smile she's been practicing since she was 19 years old. And then she feels it, a hand, firm and steady, settling at the curve of her waist like it belongs there, like it has always belonged there. She doesn't pull away. She doesn't even look up immediately. She just exhales quietly through her nose, and the drowning feeling retreats about 3 inches. When she finally turns her head, he's already looking forward, jaw set. Eyes scanning the crowd the way they always do, like a man doing a job. Like nothing in this moment is personal, except his hand doesn't move. And the crowd is already losing its mind trying to figure out who he is. 6 days earlier, the apartment smells like burnt rice and ambition. Joyce is standing at her kitchen counter at 11:30 on a Tuesday night, still in costume makeup from a fitting that ran 4 hours too long, and she is staring at a pot of jollof she very clearly forgot about. Her phone is ringing. She ignores it. It rings again. She turns the stove off, sets the pot in the sink, runs cold water over it, and picks up the phone all in one exhausted motion. "Joyce," her mother's voice, which means this is not a casual call. Her mother only uses her full name when she has already made a decision and is calling to inform Joyce of it. "Mama, your brother told me about the man outside your building." Joyce closes her eyes. "It was one man, one time, standing on a public street. Standing outside your building at 2 in the morning for the 3rd night in a row. A beat." Joyce opens her eyes. "Tun told you it was 3 times. Tun showed me the photos." She sets the phone on the counter and puts it on speaker so she can press both hands flat against the cold granite and breathe. This is what fame looks like from the inside. Not the magazine covers, not the premiere invites. This, cold granite, burnt rice. Your mother's voice at 11:30 at night carrying a kind of fear you put there. "I'm handling it," Joyce says. "You're not handling it. You're ignoring it, which is different. I don't need a bodyguard, Mama." "You need Kai," she lifts her head. "No, Tund already spoke to him. Tund had no right. He had every right. He's your brother and he loves you, and that man outside your building is not a fan, Joyce. Fans hold signs. They don't take photographs of your windows." The silence that follows is the kind that means her mother has already won and they both know it. She doesn't sleep well that night. Not because of the man outside the building, though that sits in her chest like a stone she can't dislodge. She doesn't sleep because she keeps thinking about Kai. Kwon Kai, 31 years old, 6'2" of contained, deliberate energy. The boy who used to eat dinner at their table 3-4 nights a week when they were teenagers, who taught Tund how to drive and once told Joyce with complete calm that her then-boyfriend was a liar, which she didn't believe until 8 months later when he turned out to be a liar. She hasn't seen him in almost 2 years. She doesn't know why that feels like more than it should. She flips onto her back and stares at the ceiling. The last time she saw him was at Tund's birthday. He'd shown up late, stayed near the edges of the party the way he always did, and at some point they'd ended up on the balcony together, not talking, just standing and watching the city. She'd asked him how the work was going. He'd said fine. She'd said, "You always say fine." He'd looked at her then, really looked at her, and said, "What would you prefer I say?" She hadn't answered. He'd gone back inside 20 minutes later. She'd stayed on the balcony thinking about that question for much longer than made sense. He arrives at 8 in the morning. She opens the door still in her silk robe, coffee in hand, having fully intended to be dressed and composed before he got there. She had set an alarm. The alarm had failed her. Kai is in dark trousers and a gray shirt, a jacket folded over one arm, a bag over his shoulder. He looks at her, at the coffee, at the robe. He says nothing. "You're early," she says. You said 8. I meant 8:30. You said 8. She steps back and lets him in because arguing about this at 8 in the morning is a battle she doesn't have the caffeine for yet. He steps inside and does what he always does in any room he reads it, eyes moving slowly, cataloging, measuring. He checks the windows first, then the door lock, then the balcony. Joyce watches him over the rim of her mug. I'm going to say something, she says. You're going to tell me you don't need this. I don't need this. Okay, he sets his bag down. Where do you want me to sleep? She blinks. That wasn't an agreement, Kai. You opened the door. He looks at her steadily. That was the agreement. There is something deeply, profoundly irritating about a man who is always right in the quietest possible way. Joyce takes a long sip of her coffee and points down the hall. Guest room, second door on the left. There's a towel on the bed. He picks up his bag and walks down the hall without another word. Joyce stares at the space where he was standing. 3 weeks, she tells herself. 3 weeks and then life goes back to normal. What she doesn't know, what she cannot know, standing in her kitchen with her burnt jollof memories and her complicated feelings and her robe that she's now mildly embarrassed about, is that Kai stood outside her building 3 nights ago. Not as a threat, not as a fan. He'd been parked across the street in the dark, in a car Tun didn't know he borrowed, watching the man with the camera watch Joyce's window. He'd sat there for 2 hours. He'd taken photos of the man's face, his car, his plates. He'd sent them to a contact at Seoul PD before Tund had even made the phone call. He took this job before he was asked, because that's what you do when it's her. By Thursday, they have a routine. He's in the kitchen before she wakes up. Not cooking, he doesn't cook, but he makes the coffee because he figured out on day 1 that she doesn't become a functional person until cup number 2, and there's something about having it ready that matters to her without her ever saying it. She comes out, takes the first cup, sits at the counter, doesn't speak. He reads. Or checks his phone, or stands at the window. They exist in the same silence, and it isn't uncomfortable. That's the thing she didn't expect. Kai at close range is not what she anticipated. She expected surveillance and formal check-ins and ma'am, we need to vary your route. What she got instead is a man who takes up space quietly, who never crowds her, who says exactly what he means and nothing more. Friday morning, she stops bracing for him to be someone he isn't. You never told me why you left the military, she says on Friday over cup 2. He looks up from his phone. You never asked. Asking now. He sets the phone down. A beat passes, the particular kind of beat where she can see him deciding whether the question is worth the answer. I got tired of being sent places and told the cost was necessary. He picks his phone back up. Didn't agree with that anymore. She looks at him. That's the most I've heard you say in 4 days. Ask better questions and I'll say more. She almost laughs. She doesn't, but almost. The first real test comes on Saturday. She has a press junket at the network building, 2 hours of round-table interviews, a cast photo, a brief appearance at the post-event gathering. Standard. Manageable. Except it's the first public appearance she's made since the stalking situation became internal knowledge in her management team, and everyone is watching her to see if she'll crack. She doesn't crack. But in the elevator going down to the lobby, surrounded by 3 journalists and a PR rep, someone makes a joke about her character's love interest in the show. Must be hard to keep the chemistry professional. And something flickers across her face that she kills before it finishes forming. Kai sees it. He doesn't say anything until they're in the SUV and the partition is up. Who's Daniel? He says. Her jaw tightens. My co-star. That's not what I asked. Looks out the window. Seoul moves past, gray and glittering at the same time. He's someone I've been seeing. We're keeping it private. Silence. Ton no. No more silence. The kind that has weight. Kai, it's not my business, he says, not coldly, just factually. I just need to know who has access to you, for security, has access to me. How often? She turns to look at him. His eyes are on the road. His hands are easy on the wheel, not tight, not tense. Nothing in his face gives him away. A few times a week, she says. He comes to the apartment sometimes. He nods once. That's all. But for the rest of the drive, neither of them speaks, and the silence has changed texture, slightly heavier, slightly warmer at the edges, like something that hasn't been named yet but already knows what it is. If you love where this story is going, I promise you have no idea what is about to come. Like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching us from. This is Real Soul Stories, and we tell the best stories. Now let's continue. Daniel Park is everything the entertainment industry builds men to be. Tall, charming, the kind of handsome that photographs well from every angle. He has a laugh that fills rooms and a way of entering spaces like he already owns them, which, depending on the space, he sometimes does. Joyce met him on set 8 months ago. They were strangers playing lovers, which in this industry is how most real things start. He'd brought her coffee one morning without being asked. She'd helped him run lines at midnight in an empty rehearsal room. Somewhere in between the cameras and the callbacks and the late-night texts, something real had threaded itself through the performance. Or she thought it had. He comes to the apartment on Sunday. Kai opens the door. The two men stand in the doorway for exactly 3 seconds, which is 2 seconds longer than a normal greeting and 1 second short of something territorial. Daniel's smile adjusts, just slightly. The kind of adjustment only someone paying close attention would catch. Joyce appears from the hallway. "Daniel, this is Kai, my brother's." She pauses, and the pause is brief but real. "Friend, he's doing security for a few weeks." Daniel extends his hand. "Good to meet you, man." Kai shakes it. "You too, that's all." But Daniel's eyes move to Joyce with a question in them, and Kai steps back toward the kitchen, and the whole moment passes in under a minute. Joyce doesn't think about it again. Kai doesn't stop thinking about it at all. He takes himself to the guest room when Daniel is over. He doesn't have to. The arrangement is that he's present in the apartment at all times, near enough to respond. But there is a line between professional proximity and something else, and Kai has spent 11 years drawing lines between himself and things he cannot have. He sits on the edge of the guest bed and reads. Hears them in the kitchen, her laugh, Daniel's low voice, the sound of glasses on the counter. He turns a page, reads the same paragraph 4 times. At 10:43, he hears Daniel leave. At 10:50, Joyce knocks on the guest room door. "You didn't have to disappear," she says through it. He opens the door. She's leaning against the frame, arms crossed loosely, a half-empty glass of wine in one hand. She looks relaxed in a way she doesn't always let herself look, softer at the edges. "You had company," he says. "I always have company. You live here technically for 3 weeks." She tilts her head. "You don't have to make yourself invisible." He looks at her for a moment. "Okay, that's it. Okay, what else should I say?" She makes a sound, not quite a laugh, not quite exasperation, something in between. "You are genuinely the strangest person I know, Kai. You know a lot of strange people." "I do," she agrees. "You're still winning." She pushes off the doorframe and walks back down the hall, and he watches her go, and he says nothing, and his chest does something he has been carefully not nomming since he was 22 years old. Monday. She has a 6 a.m. call time. He's already in the car when she comes down, engine warm, coffee in the cup holder, the particular playlist she likes running low through the speakers. She hasn't told him about the playlist. He heard it through her door one morning and made a note. She gets in, wraps both hands around the coffee, and stares through the windshield at the still dark Seoul morning. "You figured out the playlist," she says. "Wasn't hard. It's my getting ready playlist. It's very specific." "I know. You skip the 4th song every time." She turns to look at him. He keeps his eyes on the road. "You notice that?" "I notice everything," he says simply. "That's the job." She faces forward again, takes a sip of coffee. "That's the job." She tells herself that's all it is. The week finds its rhythm. Early mornings. Long drives through the city while it's still deciding what kind of day to be. Set drop-offs. Waiting. Pickups. Take-out containers on the kitchen counter because neither of them is making real meals. On Tuesday, he tries to make rice. She comes home to find him standing over the stove with the specific stillness of a man who has made a tactical error and hasn't yet decided how to manage it. "Is it burnt?" she asks, setting her bag down. "It's not burnt." She comes and looks into the pot. "Kai, it's not burnt, it's caramelized." That is a generous word for what's happening in this pot. She gently moves him aside, turns the heat off, and starts pulling ingredients out of the fridge. "Go sit down. I'll cook. You just worked a 12-hour day, and you just assaulted rice. Go sit down." He goes and sits down. She cooks proper jollof this time, not the forgotten Tuesday pot from last week, and she talks while she does it, which is something she does when she's comfortable. She tells him about a scene they reshot 4 times today because the director kept changing his mind. She does an impression of the director that is accurate enough to be unkind. Kai watches her from the counter and laughs once, low and genuine, and she stops mid-impression because she's never heard him laugh like that before. Not here. Not directed at her. She files it away without meaning to. "What?" he says, catching her expression. "Nothing. You laughed. People laugh. You don't. Not usually." He considers this. "You were funny. I'm always funny. You're often funny," he allows. "There's a difference." She throws a dish towel at him. He catches it without looking. She turns back to the stove smiling and doesn't know he's still watching her. Wednesday night, she falls asleep on the couch. She didn't mean to. She sat down with her script to run lines for Thursday's shoot, and somewhere between page 14 and page 22, the week caught up with her. Kai comes in from checking the building's exterior, finds her sideways on the cushions, script pages fan across her chest, one hand still loosely holding a highlighter. He stands in the doorway for a moment. Then he pulls the blanket from the armchair and covers her. Takes the highlighter from her fingers, sets the script pages on the table in order, turns off the lamp. He's moving toward the hallway when she stirs. "Kai," he stops. "Go back to sleep." A pause. Her voice is low and blurred with sleep. "Did you eat?" He looks back at her, barely visible in the dark, just the shape of her, small under the blanket. "Yeah," he says. "There's leftover jollof. I know. It's better today. It always gets better the next day." "I know that too." She makes a small sound, something content, and goes quiet again. He stands there for 1 second longer than necessary. Then he goes to bed. Thursday brings Daniel back. Not in person, a text, which Joyce reads at lunch and which makes her smile at her phone in a way that she tucks away quickly, privately, like something she's protecting. Kai is across the table. He doesn't ask. But that evening, while she's on a call with Daniel in the other room, Kai sits at the kitchen counter and opens the file he started 3 nights ago, the one on the man outside her building. He's been running the plates quietly, checking with his contact at Seoul PD, building a picture. The man has a name now. He has an address. He has a prior, a fan-related incident with another celebrity 3 years ago. Nothing that went to prosecution, but enough to build a case for a restraining order. Kai has had this information for 48 hours. He's been deciding how to tell her, not because it's complicated. Because her reaction will be the first real moment since he got here where she'll be genuinely scared, and there is a part of him, the part he doesn't examine closely, that doesn't want to be the person who puts that fear in her eyes. But she has to know. She comes back into the kitchen still on the phone, catches his expression, and pauses mid-sentence. "Can I call you back?" she says into the phone. She hangs up, looks at Kai. "What happened?" A question. She already knows from his face that it's real. "Sit down," he says. "Tell me first, then I'll sit down." He turns the laptop toward her. She reads the file slowly, every line. Her hand comes up and rests on the counter, steadying herself the way people do when the floor hasn't moved but feels like it might. When she's done, she looks up. "Long have you known?" 2 days. "Why didn't you tell me?" He holds her gaze. "'Cause I wanted to know exactly how serious it was before I worried you. That wasn't your call to make." "No," he agrees. "It wasn't. I'm sorry." She stares at him for a long moment. Something moves across her face, frustration, relief, something else. She pulls out the stool and sits down, puts both hands flat on the counter. "What do we do?" she says. And just like that, it's we. He doesn't remark on it. "My contact can file for a restraining order with what I've built. It won't happen overnight, but it starts the clock." He pauses. "I'll also need you to stop your current pattern, same exit, same times. We vary it starting tomorrow, okay? And I need the name of everyone who has your home address." She looks at him. "Everyone, everyone." She nods slowly. "Okay, and then thank you for building the file. That's the job," he says. But it isn't, and she almost says so, and she doesn't, and the almost saying is its own kind of thing. Friday comes with rain. Heavy gray Seoul rain that turns the city into a watercolor and makes everything feel slightly more intimate than it has any right to be. They're stuck in traffic for 45 minutes on the way back from her afternoon fitting, and the rain on the roof of the SUV is loud enough that conversation has to be closer, slightly more deliberate. She's in the back. He's in the front. There is a partition she never closes. "Can I ask you something personal?" she says. He glances in the rearview mirror. You can ask, have you ever been in love with someone you weren't supposed to be in love with? The traffic doesn't move. The rain doesn't stop. Why? He says. I'm just trying to figure something out. The pause that follows is long enough that she thinks he won't answer. Yes, he says. She waits for more. More doesn't come. What did you do about it? She asks. His eyes find hers in the mirror. Hold for 1 second. 2. I stayed close, he says. And I made sure she was safe. Joyce looks out the window at the rain. She doesn't ask the follow-up question. She already knows the answer. That night she calls Daniel. They talk for an hour about the show, about the premiere next week, about going public. Daniel is warm on the phone, enthusiastic, already planning the moment. He talks about the red carpet like it's a campaign. She listens and says the right things and hangs up feeling vaguely like she missed something she was supposed to feel. She lies in bed and stares at the ceiling. Down the hall, Kai's light is still on. She can see it under her door, a thin strip of gold, constant and steady in the dark. She falls asleep before it goes off. The week of the premiere arrives like a held breath. Everything accelerates. Joyce's schedule becomes a moving target: fittings, press calls, stylist appointments, a radio interview on Wednesday morning where the host asks 3 times, in 3 different ways, whether she and Daniel are just co-stars. She smiles through all 3, gives the same non-answer, hangs up the earpiece and sits in the back of the SUV with her eyes closed for the entire ride home. Kai doesn't ask how it went. He already knows. Monday's fitting runs 3 hours. The gown is a custom piece, deep burgundy structured corset, a train that moves like something living. The stylist is meticulous and wonderful and extremely chatty, and by hour 2 Joyce is standing on a platform in her underwear and a half-pinned bodice while 3 people argue about bonding placement, and she catches Kai's eyes in the mirror. He's near the door, arms crossed, looking somewhere neutral the way he always does when proximity requires it, professional distance in a room that doesn't allow for much of it. She raises her eyebrows at him in the mirror. "Help me," she mouths. The corner of his mouth moves, almost nothing. But she's been reading his face long enough now that almost nothing is a language she's starting to understand. He looks at the lead stylist. "How much longer?" The stylist turns, takes Kai in, visibly recalibrates. 40 minutes. She has a call in 35. She doesn't have a call in 35 minutes. Joyce presses her lips together and looks at the ceiling. There in the car 12 minutes later. "I didn't have a call," she says. "I know, you lied to my stylist. I redirected the timeline." She looks at him. "You redirected this." She stops, shakes her head. "Thank you, you looked tired." "I was tired." "I know." He changes lanes smoothly. "You also looked perfect for what it's worth." She goes quiet. Outside, Seoul does what Seoul does, loud and layered and completely indifferent to the small, significant thing that just happened inside this car. "You also looked perfect." She stores it somewhere she doesn't examine. Tuesday, Daniel calls during lunch. She steps away from the table there at a restaurant near the network building, a working lunch with her manager, and takes it in the small corridor near the restrooms. "Been thinking about the red carpet," he says, and his voice has the easy confidence she felt for 8 months ago. "I want to make it a real moment. Not just showing up together, I want it to be a statement." "A statement," she repeats. "You know how these things work. The right photo, the right angle, it sets the whole narrative. I've talked to my publicist. She thinks if we time it right, step out together, you and the burgundy, I'll coordinate, we control the story before anyone else gets to write it." She leans against the wall. "You talked to your publicist?" "Of course. This is a big deal, Joyce." She listens to him talk for another 4 minutes about optics and timing and narrative control, and somewhere in the middle of it she notices that he hasn't once asked her how she feels about any of it. She doesn't say that. She says that sounds good and I'll talk to my team, and hangs up. When she comes back to the table, Kai looks at her once and goes back to his water. That evening she tells him about the plan. He listens without interrupting. "What do you think?" she asks. "I think you should do what you want," he says, "not what makes the best photo." He doesn't answer, but she thinks about it for the rest of the night. Wednesday, something shifts between them, though neither names it. She's running lines for a scene she's reshooting on Friday, a confrontation scene, emotionally heavy, the kind that requires getting somewhere real before the camera rolls. She's in the living room, script in hand, packing, trying to find the emotional entry point and not finding it. Kai is reading on the couch. "Read the other part," she says suddenly. He looks up. "What? I need someone to read opposite me. Just the lines, I don't need a performance." She holds the script out. "Please." He takes it, finds the scene, reads the first line flat, neutral, just words. She responds. He reads the next line, and this time there's a slight shift in his delivery, something slightly more present, and she catches it immediately. They go through the scene twice. The second time, on the last line, "I was always going to leave." "You just didn't want to see it." His voice drops slightly, and she forgets for a moment that she's practicing, because the way he says it lands somewhere specific. Lowers her script. He closes it, hands it back. "Not bad at that," she says. "I was just reading." "You weren't just reading." He meets her eyes briefly. "You found your entry point." She has. She doesn't know what to do with the fact that it was him who gave it to her. Thursday night. One day out. She can't sleep. She gets up at 2 in the morning, goes to the kitchen, and finds Kai already there, seated at the counter with a glass of water, scrolling through something on his phone. He looks up when she comes in. Doesn't seem surprised. "Can't sleep either?" she asks. "I sleep light." She pours herself a glass of water and sits on the opposite counter, not the stool, the actual counter, pulling herself up like she's 17 in her mother's kitchen. He watches her do it with an expression she can't fully decode. "Are you nervous?" he asks. "About tomorrow?" "Yes." She thinks about it honestly. About going public with Daniel, not the premiere itself. She wraps both hands around the glass. It feels like once it's out there, it becomes a different thing. Right now it's private. It's ours. Once it's on camera, it belongs to everyone. Kai is quiet for a moment. "Is that what you want, to keep it private?" "I don't know what I want." He turns the glass slowly in his hands. "You said when you described what he said on the phone, he talked about it like a campaign." She looks up. "That's not nothing," he says. "Pay attention to the things that bother you even when you don't say them out loud." She stares at him. "When did you become a feelings person?" "Always notice things." "You're not supposed to notice those things." "I notice everything," he says again. Same words as before, different weight this time. "That's not just the job." The kitchen is very quiet. Seoul is dark outside the window. She should respond to that. She has 4 different responses forming, overlapping, none of them quite right, and before she can choose one, her phone buzzes on the counter. She glances at it. A notification. Tagged in something. A gossip account. She picks it up. Her face changes. He sees it happen. The way expression doesn't drain away but solidifies, like something soft going rigid in real time. She reads the screen for 5 seconds. 10. Her thumb moves, scrolling. "Joyce." He doesn't answer. He slides off his stool and comes around the counter. She turns the phone and shows him. It's a video, 32 seconds long. Shot through a restaurant window, blurred but clear enough, the way these things always are. Daniel Park and an actress named Seo Yuna. The kind of video that doesn't require a caption. The account that posted it has 400,000 followers. It is currently at 67,000 views. Kai looks at the screen, then at her. Her face is composed. That's what scares him. He would feel better if she looked shattered, because composed right now means she's somewhere he can't reach. "Joyce, don't." Her voice is quiet, even. "Don't say anything kind right now. If you say something kind, I'll fall apart, and I can't fall apart tonight because I have to be on that carpet tomorrow." He says nothing. She sets the phone face down on the counter. "How long do you think?" she says to the space in front of her, "before my phone starts ringing?" As if in answer, it vibrates. Face down, buzzing against the granite. She doesn't move. It vibrates again. He picks it up. Manager's name on the screen. "Do you want me to take it?" he says. She looks at the phone in his hand. Something crosses her face, gratitude maybe, or the recognition of being looked after when you didn't know you needed it. "No." She takes it, answers. "I know, I've seen it." A pause. "I'm fine." Another pause. "I said I'm fine, Sujin. I'll call you at 7. She hangs up, sets the phone down. "The internet," she says with a precision that is its own kind of devastation, "is going to call this my first scandal." Them. She turns to look at him. "You didn't do anything," he says. "He did. That's his scandal. You just have to decide what you do next." "What I do next." She repeats it like she's testing the weight of it. "I should pull out, skip it." "That what you want?" No, she says it fast. Too fast for it to be a performance. No. I got this role because I earned it, and I have people who worked on this production who deserve to have it celebrated, and I am not going to let him take that from me. Kai looks at her for a long moment. Okay, he says. Okay, make sure you get in and out clean. You won't be alone for a second. He pauses. Not for 1 second, Joyce. She looks at him, really looks at him, the way people don't always let themselves look at the person right in front of them. Why are you so? She stops. So what? She shakes her head. Nothing, thank you. She slides off the counter, starts toward the hallway. Joyce, she turns. He's still standing at the counter. Same calm, same steadiness. The thing that has been there since the beginning, so constant she stopped noticing it, which might be the most expensive thing she's ever overlooked. The dress is going to be the best thing at that premiere, he says. Wear it like you know that. She stands in the doorway for 1 second. Then she nods and goes to bed. Friday morning arrives heavy and bright. She wakes at 6 and does not check her phone for 37 minutes, which is a personal record. When she does, there are 412 notifications and 17 missed calls and a text from Daniel that says, "I'm so sorry. Please call me," which she reads once and does not respond to. She showers. She does her skincare. She sits in the makeup chair and lets the artist work while she runs the interior math of what today requires. The video is everywhere now. Every entertainment account, every forum thread, every breaking push notification. The narrative has already been written by strangers who don't know her name except in the context of his, Daniel Park's girlfriend, the cheated-on one. Did she know? She closes her eyes under the makeup brush and breathes. The gown goes on at 4:30. The corset is structured tighter than the fitting. It always is on the day, the stylist explains, because the dress performs differently with full hair and makeup. Joyce stands in front of the full-length mirror and looks at herself for a long time. She looks like someone who has already decided to win, which is the only version of herself she can afford to be today. Her stylist calls for the car. She turns from the mirror. Down the hall, she hears Kai's door. Steps into the living room and stops. She's standing by the window in the full gown, burgundy structured. The train moved carefully to one side. The light is catching everything it's supposed to. Her posture is the kind that comes from deciding, not from being told. He looks at her. She looks back. "Do I look okay?" she asks. The same question she would ask anyone. The kind that means, "Tell me I can do this." His answer is immediate. "You look perfect." She nods, picks up her clutch. "Let's go," she says. He holds the door. In the elevator going down, her breathing changes. Not dramatically, just a slight shallowing, the body catching up to what the mind has been managing. The corset doesn't help. She presses one hand to her sternum quietly. He notices. He doesn't say anything. But when they reach the lobby and the car is waiting outside and the driver opens the rear door, she gets her foot on the running board and the corset catches her wrong and the step is higher than it looks, and for one moment she simply can't. His hands close around her waist. Not asking. Not hesitating. He lifts her into the SUV like the decision was made a long time ago. She catches her breath inside the car. Straightens. Smooths the gown. He gets in. Back seat. Not front. She turns and looks at him. "What are you doing?" He adjusts his jacket, looks forward. "You think I'm letting you walk into that alone?" The drive to the venue takes 19 minutes. Neither of them speaks for the first 7. Seoul moves past the windows in streaks of gold and neon, the city dressed up for a Friday night, indifferent and luminous. Joyce sits with her hands folded in her lap, clutch balanced on her knees, eyes forward. Kai sits an arm's length away, jacket straightened, watching the road ahead. The silence isn't empty. It never is with them anymore. "You didn't have to do this," she says finally. "I know. Your job is external security. You could have put me in the car and waited outside." "I know that too." She turns to look at him. In the passing light of the city, his face is all angles and patience, the particular stillness of a man who has made his decision and doesn't need to defend it. "Then why?" she says. He looks at her then. Fully. "Because you were in that elevator holding your breath, and you've been holding it since 2 in the morning, and you should be able to breathe." He faces forward again. "That's why." She looks at her hands. Outside, the first signs of the premiere appear: barriers, press lines, the distant blur of flashbulbs warming up like lightning before a storm. "Kai, yeah, I'm glad you came." A beat. Don't make it weird. The corner of his mouth moves. Wouldn't dream of it, he says. The car stops. She hears it before she sees it, the sound of a crowd that has been waiting, that has collective energy and collective noise and a collective hunger for something to look at and consume and have opinions about. The premiere for Parallel Lines, her show, her role, the thing she spent 14 months of her life building, is happening 30 feet away, and the whole world apparently decided to show up. Her door opens. The noise is immediate and total. She steps out. Flashbulbs fire like a white wall. Her name from every direction. Her publicist materializes on her left, murmuring positioning instructions. The red carpet stretches ahead, not long, maybe 40 meters, but tonight it feels like geography. She walks. She smiles. She is deeply, specifically, profoundly alone. And then she isn't. A hand finds her waist the way things find their right place, without announcement, without ceremony. Firm and steady and warm even through the structured fabric of the gown. She doesn't startle. She doesn't pull away. She exhales the breath she's been holding since 2 in the morning, and it goes quietly, privately, belonging only to her and the man standing beside her. The crowd reacts immediately. Who is that? Is that her bodyguard? Wait, who is he? She hears it in fragments. Social media is already asking the question in real time. She knows this without checking. The way you know weather from pressure before the rain arrives. Her publicist appears at her shoulder. Joyce, it's fine, she says. Quiet, certain. The publicist looks at Kai, looks at Joyce, makes a calculation, steps back. The photographers want her at the solo mark first. She goes, poses, turns. The training is in the body. You don't have to think about it after enough times. The angles become instinct. She knows which shoulder to drop, which way to angle her chin, how to hold a smile until it looks real. But her eyes keep moving left. Kai is standing 3 feet off the carpet, hands loose at his sides, watching the crowd. Not her, the crowd, doing the job, reading the room. His eyes move in that slow, comprehensive way that she has spent 2 weeks learning to find reassuring. He catches her looking. He doesn't react, but he takes 1 step closer. The photographer calls for a group shot, cast members assembling, her co-stars arriving in clusters, the director in a suit that's slightly too big, the writer who never comes to these things but came to this one. Normal premiere choreography. And then, through a gap in the crowd on the far side of the barriers, she sees him. Daniel. He's just arrived. Late, 20 minutes late, which is a statement in itself. He's in a navy suit, his publicist beside him, his expression carrying the specific performance of a man who has prepared an apology face for public deployment. Their eyes meet across 40 feet of red carpet and flashbulbs. He takes a step toward the carpet entrance. Something tightens in her chest. Not heartbreak. She took that apart alone at 2 in the morning and laid the pieces out and looked at them honestly. What she feels now is older and colder than heartbreak. It's the particular anger of someone who made themselves small to fit inside something that wasn't worth it. She faces forward. She doesn't realize her breathing has gone shallow again until Kai is beside her. He doesn't ask. He doesn't check in. He simply steps up next to her, close enough that his arm is against hers and the heat of him is specific and grounding and real. He just arrived, she says quietly, not moving her mouth much. I know. I saw him 4 minutes ago. She blinks. 4 minutes ago. I clocked him when the car pulled up. A pause. I wasn't going to tell you until you were off the carpet. She almost laughs. She would if her chest weren't this tight. You were going to run interference. I was going to do my job. Your job, she repeats, and there's something in her voice that makes him turn to look at her. Her jaw is set. Her eyes are bright, not tears, something harder than tears, something that's been building since she read a 32-second video in her kitchen at 2 in the morning. I'm not going to fall apart, she says quietly. I just need, she stops. A photographer calls her name. She looks up. Reflex smile. Click. She drops the smile the moment the camera moves on. I just need to not feel like I'm standing here by myself, she finishes. Kai doesn't say anything. Instead, without hesitation, without performance, he settles his hand back at her waist, not security positioning, not professional proximity, just his hand, at her waist, choosing to be there. The crowd notices. 3 cameras swing toward them. Who is he? The question is moving through the press line like electricity. Her publicist is somewhere behind her fielding versions of it. Entertainment accounts are already posting side-by-sides, Joyce alone on the carpet from previous events, Joyce right now, with a man who carries himself like he owns every room he decides to enter. She is aware of all of it. She is also, for the first time since the car door opened, completely present in her own body. Asking about you, she says quietly. Let them. My publicist is going to have opinions. Let her. She looks up at him. He's looking out at the crowd, jaw set, hand steady. The flashbulbs catch the line of his profile, and she thinks, with sudden clarity, that he has always looked like this, steady, immovable, quietly certain in a way she has spent 2 weeks dismissing as that's just how Kai is without asking herself why it made her feel safe in a way nothing else did. Kai, look at me for a second. He turns, looks at her. Actually looks, the way he does sometimes when he lets his guard fully down, which is rare and specific and always catches her slightly off balance. She opens her mouth. From somewhere behind her, she hears Daniel's voice, Joyce, cutting through the crowd noise, getting closer, the particular tone of a man who has prepared a speech and intends to deliver it. The cameras see him moving toward her. The crowd swells. And something happens in Kai's eyes, a decision, arriving and completing itself in the space of a single second. A door he has kept closed for 9 years quietly opening. He lifts his free hand, cups her face. His thumb rests at her cheekbone, gentle and certain, and he looks at her, really looks like he's been waiting for permission and has finally decided he doesn't need it anymore. Wait, she starts. I'm going to tell you something, he says. Low, only for her. The crowd doesn't exist. Daniel doesn't exist. The cameras don't exist. She goes still. The boy who used to eat dinner at your table, he says. The one who taught your brother to drive. Who told you your first boyfriend was a liar. His thumb moves the smallest motion against her cheekbone. He's been in love with you his whole life. She stares. His whole life, Joyce. The silence between them is enormous and intimate and has been building for 9 years. Kai, her voice is different now. Stripped of the premiere, the cameras, Daniel somewhere behind her, the video, the 32 seconds, all of it. Your whole life, my whole life. You never, I know, ever said anything. I know. His eyes don't move from hers. I'm saying it now. Behind her, she can hear Daniel getting closer, can hear the crowd reacting to his approach, can hear the specific social chaos of a story writing itself in real time. In about 8 seconds, this moment is going to get interrupted. Kai, she says his name like she's never said it before, which isn't true except somehow it is. Tell me to stop, he says, and I'll stop. She doesn't tell him to stop. He kisses her, not urgently, not desperately. The way a man kisses someone he has loved for 9 years and finally decided not to hide, slowly and with complete conviction. The cameras go off. All of them. Every press line photographer, every fan with a phone, every entertainment account that came to cover a TV premiere and got something else entirely. And in the middle of it, Joyce has one clear thought. Oh, it was always him. She kisses him back. When they break apart, the noise from the crowd is different, not sharp anymore. Something fuller, human, recognizing, her eyes open. Kai is looking at her. His hand is still at her face. His expression is the same steadiness she knows, except there's something in it now that was always underneath and never showing, the particular look of a man who has finally put something down. Daniel is standing 12 feet away. He has stopped moving. For the first time in her experience of him, he looks genuinely at a loss. She looks at him. Then she looks back at Kai. You could have said something 2 weeks ago, she says. I could have said something 9 years ago. Why didn't you? He considers it. You weren't mine to say it to. Now his eyes hold hers. That depends on you. She turns back to the carpet. Her publicist is somewhere behind her. The crowd is still buzzing. 3 cameras are still pointed at them. Joyce straightens her gown, adjusts her clutch, and then she smiles, not the trained smile. The real one. She looks at Kai. Walk me down the carpet, she says. He offers his arm. She takes it. They walk. The photographers go wild. The crowd parts and reforms like water. Questions are shouted from every angle. Joyce, who is he? Joyce, are you together? Joyce, what about Daniel? And she answers none of them and all of them at once by simply walking. At the end of the carpet, she stops. Kai stops with her. She turns to face him fully. I have questions, she says. I know, a lot of questions. I expected that. 9 years is a long time to not say something. It is, he meets her eyes. I'll answer all of them. Tonight if you want. Or after, whenever you're ready. What if I'm ready now? Then we're going to have an interesting conversation in the middle of a premiere. She looks at him. I want to go home after this, she says. Okay, I want to eat leftover jollof. It's been in the fridge since Wednesday. It's better the longer it sits. That's not, he starts, and she laughs real full, unguarded, and the sound of it seems to undo something in him. Come on, she says. I have a film to premiere. She takes his arm. He lets her. Inside, the lights are low and the seats are filling and the machinery of a premiere moves around them like weather. She finds her seat. He takes the one beside her. And when the screen lights up, she reaches in the dark and finds his hand. He doesn't look at her, but his fingers close around hers. And they stay that way, later, much later. The world outside already rewriting itself in headlines and clips and commentary they haven't seen yet. They are in her kitchen. The jollof is on the counter. She's changed. He's changed into something simple. The night has softened into quiet. They eat standing at the counter. Question 1, she says. Go ahead. Tun's birthday 2 years ago, the balcony. She points her fork at him. You asked me what I'd prefer you to say. I remember. What were you actually trying to say? He sets his fork down, looks at the counter. That I'd spent 4 hours at a party I didn't want to be at because you were going to be there, he says. And that I'd been doing that for years. And that I was running out of ways to pretend that was normal. She stares at him. That's what I was trying to say, he adds. Kai, yeah, that's a lot to be holding. I'm aware. She looks at him. Something in her chest rearranges itself permanently. Question 2, she says. He picks up his fork. How many questions are there? Currently, 11. He looks at her. Something warm moves through his expression. K, ask all 11. She sets her fork down. Faces him fully. Why now, she asks. He answers without hesitation. Because he was walking toward you, and you looked like someone bracing for impact. He holds her gaze, and I decided I was done watching you brace. The kitchen is quiet. He was never right for you, Kai says. You knew that. You were just hopping. You were wrong. Yeah, I should have. No, she says. You were right to wait. I needed to figure it out. A pause. I just needed to figure out what I was waiting for at the same time. He looks at her. She looks back. Kai, yeah. Question 12. You said 11. I added 1. The corner of his mouth moves. Ask it. She takes 1 step toward him. Are you still between contracts? She says. He understands immediately. Depends. What? Whether the job changed. The job changed, she says. Then no, he says. I'm not between contracts. He reaches up and tucks a strand of hair behind her ear, slow, careful, like he's been waiting a long time to do it. The jollof is good, he says. She laughs. It's always good, she says. You just have to be patient. He looks at her. I know, he says. I know how to wait. She closes the distance. Outside, Seoul is loud and alive and indifferent. Inside, the light above the counter is warm. And for the first time in a long time, nobody is bracing for anything. This is the end of this story. If you enjoy every bit of it, please like and comment where you're watching from, and also don't forget to subscribe. See you guys on the next video.